So, hi everybody, welcome back to podcast by Gulshan. And today we have beautiful. You know what? I'm just going to leave it to you. You introduce yourself. You tell us everything about you. And I don't know your
Mhm.
story. We've met at some events, so I really today even I'll be hearing it for the first time. And thank you for coming. And yeah, so this is the beautiful Saira.
Thank you so much. My name is Saira Sayed, and I am a wheelchair user. I have been using wheelchair for full time. I think it's been around 6 years full time, and I was using 2 years before that part time. Many times, people have this perception that people with wheelchair are using it since they were born, or they continuously use their mobility aid. But in my case, I grew up without any
So
disability.
let's just go back to that. Which part of the world are you from? Tell us, when did it all start?
Okay, so I am an Indian by nationality. I was born in Mumbai. I have spent my childhood in Mumbai, and then we moved to Gujarat. I belong to a very small town called Jamnagar, and I've grown up there. I started my schooling there.
Now it's not small.
Well, thanks to the buzz in social media, but it used to be a very small town, a very small dot on the map before everything started. But I come from the background of a very small town where everyone knew everyone, and I started my schooling in Jamnagar. I completed my nursery in Mumbai, and I was completely active, your usual normal kid. I wouldn't use the word normal in my case because I was really, really active, and I loved dancing. I loved skating. I loved, all the activities in the water. Um, at the age of 15, this was around the time when I had completed my 10th, my high school, and I was moving to 11th, and I was about to start my new year for higher secondary. That's the 12th standard. And 12th standard, I come from the background of Gujarat State Board, and it's one of the most important years for students who are passing out. When I
It's higher secondary,
Higher
and then you
secondary,
go to
yes,
university.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So in terms when I came back to school, I noticed I couldn't take the stairs of the school. It was just the start of the school, and as usual, you are excited. You have your new bag. You're excited to meet your friends after the vacations. And I noticed a change. My school class was on the first floor, and there were three stairs, and then you take a flight of stairs to go to the classroom. And I was noticing that it was bothering me that it's first day. I don't know why I can't take the stairs. Maybe it's difficult because maybe I was tired the other the previous night. And I was sharing this with my friend that, hey, I don't know, can you support me? And she said, yes, of course. And till this day, I remember that day very, very vividly because that was the first time I
First.
couldn't take the stairs, and it was difficult for me. So I held her hand, and we took the flight of stairs, and I was all right the full day. The second time around, after the interval, we are supposed to leave the classroom, go down, do our thing, and come back. And the second time around, it was not so difficult. It happened to me every single day in the morning when we'd go back to the classroom to put our bags and everything. And then we'd come down, and the next time around, it would get easier for me to climb the stairs. It happened for 3 to 4 weeks consistently
Oh.
that I couldn't,
And you
take
did
the
speak with
stairs
your parents then?
because I kept on, making excuses in my head that maybe because of this, maybe because of that. And then I started noting that, at home we had a flight of stairs, but because it had support on my
The
right
railing,
hand
yeah.
side, it wasn't difficult. But after a month, I told my mom that, it's getting difficult for me to take stairs. I don't know. I'm standing in front of it and I feel like I'm forgetting how to take stairs. She said, okay, let me know if there are any other changes. And that time, she didn't brush it off, Like some of my friends were brushing it off. It's okay. You may have been tired or XYZ. And then, one day we were leaving the school, and I always had bunch of friends with me. And one friend came from behind, and as a joke, she pushed her knee behind my knee.
Oh,
She wanted to, tell
yeah.
me that I was not here. See, I'm back. And then she did that, and I fell down right bang on my knees, and it was surprising. I went home and I told my mom that this happened, and she got really concerned that why is this happening. During this period, I also started noticing I couldn't walk as I would previously. And I started taking notice that I couldn't get up from the ground. In the school that I was, it was all girls school, and we used to share our
Meals.
tiffin and lunch and sitting down on the ground. And I noticed I couldn't push myself up. So at that point, my mother was, talking to my dad, and we were all discussing what we should do next. We went to a heart specialist because they thought that maybe it's something to do with the heart because I'm getting tired. The heart specialist did an ultrasound of the heart, and it was all okay. And he told us to go and look at a bone doctor. We went to an orthopedic, and he said he did run a lot of tests, and he said everything is fine. You seem to be okay, but no one could tell me why this was happening. And they ran a couple of blood tests, and there was an elevation in my CPK level in creatinine. It is when it's impacting your liver because your muscles are breaking down. But at that point, they couldn't understand what was happening. My teacher, during PTA, parent-teacher meeting, my mother said that, she is struggling at school because of her activities, and what can we do and what can we look into. Maybe, there could be support for her because she has to climb stairs, and I can't tell you the reason why she's not able to do it, but it's getting difficult for her. My teacher, her name is Miss Kumud, she said, why don't you go and go and talk to this doctor, a specialist in Jamnagar. And we went there, and the doctor saw my reports that we had previously done, and he said, I did your heart ultrasound, and he said, okay, let's have a look. And he tested me. He asked me to go on my heels, toes, and he was asking me to kick my legs and everything. And this is something my mother tells me, I don't remember this. She told me that the doctor said that her muscles are gone, her muscles are finishing, and she's not going to be able to walk after the age of 30.
Wow.
He told us, me, my mom, and my dad, he told us, but I don't remember this.
So you
For
just
some
blocked it
reason,
out.
yes, I've blocked it out, and my mother remembers that I started bawling. I started crying at that point of time. And we left.
But did he say what the condition was?
He didn't say immediately, or if he did to me,
You don't know.
I don't remember. But my mom said that he told us that we need to go to Bombay and we need to get a test. There was a specialist who would look at the muscles, and he would tell us what's the accurate diagnosis. But he said, this is my diagnosis, and I think she has something wrong with her muscles. My father went back to the doctor because I remember him coming home. This I remember. He came home and he was very upset. So I asked Papa that what happened, And he said that, I don't know what's wrong with the doctor. If it was a difficult news, he should have discussed with us first, and he shouldn't have told you so point blank. And I said, okay, that's fine. He told us it's not in stone, and we still need to get tests done. And my parents, started talking to their friends, to people who they knew who were neurologists, and we went to another city to get a referral to make sure that, we had to go to Bombay. 2 doctors did say that we should go to Bombay and get me tested, and I did ask them to wait some time because I had preliminary exams for 12th standard. And I requested my school to give me that permission. And I think I did skip one exam for that. And my school, my teachers were very supportive, my friends even, and they let me take leave, and we went to Bombay for 2 weeks. Dr. Khandilkar is the one who diagnosed me with muscular dystrophy, and specifically limb girdle muscular dystrophy. He did run biopsy tests. They put in needles in my legs, my arms, everywhere, and they passed electricity to check the muscle
muscle.
movement. And I remember I was there, and I'm really curious as a person to see why and what's happening. And I was hooked up, and I saw my mom, and I'm waving at her, and she has tears in her eyes, which I couldn't understand at that point, that it's just a test. You don't need to cry. I'm brave enough. And she had to leave that room, because what would happen is when they start the test, my hand would lift up because the
Yeah.
electricity was passing. It happened, they did it all over, and they did a muscle biopsy where they cut my thigh out and they took a piece of my muscle to test it. At that time, DNA testing was not a thing in Bombay, so we didn't get that accurate result, but they did confirm that it was muscular dystrophy, and he did tell me that it's limb girdle. At that time, my mom and my uncle were there with me. My dad had to stay back in Jamnagar, but they didn't tell me. They told me to leave the room, and they took that result, and we came back home. I gave my exams, and in a trickle form, my mother kept giving me information. That the doctor has said that you have to do physio, you have to take certain supplements, magnesium, there were things to keep my bone health intact, vitamin D. And she said that you have to keep your muscle moving. I said, okay. I was very active in school, and I kept doing what I was doing. I used to ride motorbike. My parents had gotten me an electric one, because they knew that my muscle were losing, and they didn't get me a petrol one. An electric one was much lighter than the petrol one. And I've done that my whole life. Like from the age of 16, I had a motorbike, a scooty, and I used to go to my coaching classes, my extracurricular
So you were not in
activities.
denial. You
No,
you said whatever it is, I'll fight it.
I think I have thought of it, that why and how I accepted it so fast. It is because it was so gradual. There was no sudden change that happened in my life. Yes, I was not able to take stairs, and I had to hold,
You
my
could do
friend's
other things. You
hand.
were
But
riding a bike.
yes, I could do most of the things that I was already doing. So when my mother started to trickle down information very gradually, because it was a very crucial year for me, and she didn't want to,
Mess it up.
yeah. And when she started saying this, and after my exams, my board exams, she sat me down in front of a computer, and she told me, by that time she had given me a lot of information, and then she said, we don't know all the information. And together, you, me, and your dad are going to research about this, get to know more about this, and you will be the one telling us more. That inherent, this curiosity I had as a child, my mother and my dad fed it more. That research about it, and keep yourself updated with information. So till today, I'm in a habit of reading everything I could about limb girdle muscular dystrophy, and for me, it's RC. It's a new term, but it's 2B, dysferlinopathy. What that means is my muscles don't produce dysferlin, because of which my muscles can't keep up, and they lose their strength gradually. And I came to know that day when I sat in front of the computer and I researched it. It doesn't have a cure. At least it doesn't have a cure in my lifetime, but there is a lot of research going on in this world. Specifically, this foundation called Jane Foundation in US, which works on finding a cure or a medicine that would keep the balance of the muscle maintained. They're working really, really hard. And many times, because this is called a rare disease, it's not so rare.
Yeah.
10,000 people amongst 1 lakh
And
or 10 lakh would have this.
what causes it?
It's genetics. It's
So is
genetics.
it that your parents, one of them is carrying the gene,
Um,
or is it a gene mutation at the time of conception? What is it?
so I did a test, and here in Dubai at Latifa Hospital, I met a geneticist, and they told me that as a human being, we carry a lot of things, right? We carry a lot of genes, and my mom and dad had a gene which was sleeping.
Dormant.
Yes, dominant, recessive. It's called a recessive
Gene.
gene, which is not dominant. And because both of my parents had it, I am the lucky eldest one who got the dominant one. I have two siblings, two younger sisters who don't have it at all. They don't carry it. They don't have it in their gene. But because of luck, that is the I also carry two other mutation genes, which if would have been dominant, I would have the genesis told me that I would have died at the age of 3, but those are recessive genes.
Okay.
So I do have the dominant muscular dystrophy gene, which
So did you ever say why me?
once
Once.
when all of this was happening after my exams, all the attention of both of my parents was on me. And I was a teenager with a lot of angst, and my mom was not my best friend. My younger sibling, who's the middle child, she was my mom's, she is still to this day apple of her eye. And she started to notice a change. Her name is Zoya, and she said that, why are you spending all the time with this one? You don't even like her so much. And I started to understand that, it's my siblings are not happy with all the attention on me. And I told my mom and dad that you don't need to do this. And they're like, no, what do you mean you don't need to do this? We will look for a cure, and we will do this, and we will do that. And I saw my parents, trying to find so many
Did
solutions
they go to
for
all
it.
these dargahs and do this and
No,
no? Wow.
doctors. Not all. My parents, yes, they are very spiritual, but not superstitious. But they didn't do this. They were looking and knocking the doors of science.
Okay.
At that time in India, stem cells was a very, new concept, and my mom was adamant that I'm going to get stem cells for my daughter. And I told my mom very, very early on that it's not going to help, mom. You go doctor to doctor, and there was a scam. My uncle, my mama, from my mother's side, he was the one who was also actively supporting my parents that, okay, we should do this and we should do that. And I was like, mom, stop it. Don't go in all these scams. We went to Delhi to one of the doctors who said, oh, this stem cell is this new change all and, cure for all thing. And I told both of them that, look, it's not going to happen. And the dejection I saw in my parents' face when that stem cell turned out to be a scam, we had a conversation.
And how much money is being spent in all this?
It was a lot. I was not aware that healthcare is so expensive. I am now, but at that time I wasn't. And at that time when, it hits you at one point where you're like, this is not going to work, and this is not going to work, and this is not going to work. And you have to sit in front of your parents and say, stop. At that time, I asked my mom only once, why me? Because my siblings were not happy with me, and my parents are not at a place where, they've challenged everything and they've asked everyone. And science is not helping. So at that time, it was just once
And
I
what was
broke
the answer?
down. And mom is like, you don't have an option to ask this question. You have this, and you're going to live with this. And we are here to support you. I think the acceptance also come because in my household, my siblings, my grandparents, my uncles, nobody questioned why. So I was like, okay, this is it, then this is it.
But when you pray your namaz, did you at that time say, help me, give me a cure?
No.
No.
What I asked always was, give me strength. whatever you have planned for me, or whatever you have in mind for me, whatever my future is, that is up to you. But what I am asking from you is strength
Strength.
and courage. That's it. Because I'm sharing that it was accepted. I don't know how or when, but everyone was so excited when our results came of the 12th board, and I did well, and my friends were planning for future, and I was with my parents planning for how we are going to do the next steps. Because when my parents left from that Bombay hospital, leaving Dr. Khandelkar, the only roadmap or the only resource that was given was she needs to do physiotherapy. What, why, how? Nothing. No roadmap. And that is where, Facebook was also starting. I reached out to a couple of people on Facebook. They started having groups of people. So that is how I connected with people who were living with it already. But, my peers had a different pathway for them, and I had a different pathway. And the only regret that I have is I lost dancing. That joy in my life, my mother has collected videos of every single year I used to be part of activities at school, dancing activities specifically, and that is one thing I miss the most. The second thing I lost is relationships. I got so much involved in planning my future, what the pathway would look like with my parents, that I didn't keep a connect with a lot of my peers.
But they could have.
I don't think anyone knew, or till today, even if I go to a doctor like GP, if I tell them I have muscular dystrophy, they're like, what? Say again? And I have to explain it to them that what this is, what I'm living with. So I don't blame it on my peers because they didn't know, right? They only knew something was wrong with me. I went to Bombay and I came back, and
But
that's
they could
all.
have asked.
Yeah. They could have reached out and said that, hey,
And they could have just stood by you. I mean, if they were real, true friends.
I do have a couple of real friends. That friend whose hand I used to hold. I cannot end my week without speaking to her.
That's wonderful.
I don't think her name is Romana, and
Have you told Romana?
yes, I met her. She lives abroad now. She lives in Canada, and we met a couple of years ago. And I've lost quite a lot of mobility since school. And then when I met her, and she's like, "Come on." That her
Move.
left hand is what I would hold, and she's like, "Come on, let's go." And whenever she would see, she would be like, "Come on." Her hand would automatically come out. Let's go. And I'm like, Romana, I wish I could, but not this time. So it's
But she's stuck with you, and that's so important.
it is, and I don't think that we will ever lose that connection with each other, because the support she gave me and what she was at that time, I think it helped me cope up with a lot of changes that were happening, which were unplanned completely. Even with this distance, Gulshan auntie, nothing changed.
And Saira, you're married
I
to an
am.
amazing guy. I just met him. Can you tell us a little bit about Usman?
Definitely. I didn't plan this, but Usman, we connected through a friend. Her name is Sakina, and she is also one of the friends that I keep in touch with, and she's a good, friend of mine. And we connected because of her, and I connected with him at a time when I was again on the journey of getting my diagnosis, and it had like we were okay and we had everything that we needed, and that was the time when I met him. And we sat down, me, my mom, and she said, "Are you sure you want to get married?" And I'm like, I don't know. I think yes, because I don't want to be in this small town and I don't know if, I'm going to be able to do A, B, C in future. So I want to live my life because, I don't know how long I can walk or how long I can enjoy my life. So I want to have a partner to share it with. And she's like, okay. And she discussed this with my dad. And recently I had a conversation with my dad and I told him that, what was your reaction? He's like, I didn't want to leave you. And I didn't want you to go. And I didn't want you to go away from my side for 1 second. Like, how did you decide? He said it was your granddad, my nana, who said that, go meet the guy. I'm not saying, marry your daughter or give it away. That's your decision completely. But go meet the guy. And, because we were coming to Dubai to meet him, he said, nothing out of it. You'll just have a visit to Dubai. You've not gone out for a long time. And he said, my dad said, okay. With that mindset, he came here. He met my now husband. He met his family, and he was satisfied. And during that visit, he's like, okay, you can, marry him. And we got engaged at that time because I was in no hurry to get married. Yes, I had a plan that I want to spend my life with him and soon, but not at that time because it was my first face-to-face meeting with him. A year and a half later, we got married. And again, we got married here in Dubai. One thing that Dubai did was we got a blood test. There was a list of, I think, 14 tests that was required to do if you wanted to get married here in Dubai courts. It checked for thalassemia, major, minor, everything.
And muscular dystrophy.
Not at that time because blood test doesn't cover it. So, even in India, till 2016, muscular dystrophy was not accepted as a disability because it gradually decreases the muscle power. So it was quite late when I got him tested as well for if he carries any genes. But no, those tests didn't cover muscular dystrophy, but it had a list of 14 things that could be transmitted or could have an impact later on in life. We got married, and the support that I received from my in-laws, specifically from my father-in-law. He's a single dad, raised his 2 kids.
Raised him well.
Yes. And my husband had siblings who were very young when they died, and they had disabilities. So I think inherently my father-in-law had prepared his children well in advance by grace of Allah. I don't know what, how it plans and how it comes out, but my father-in-law has made the house that I live in home. Not just the disability part of it, but I always had an equal say in decision making. And I saw that my husband's voice was lower and his sister and mine was always higher. Even if we want to get new sofas, he's like, you need to ask her. When it was the question of a car, you need to ask her. What is going to cook for, what you are, like Usman is going to make for dinner, go ask Saira. So it is always the female lead in our house, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, you're truly blessed. So, Saira, you work with I Am Inclusive.
Yes.
And can you just share a little bit about that? And also, how has UAE helped, people of determination here?
Absolutely. So I Am Inclusive, again, it's so powerful when you have family who are people of determination. I Am Inclusive is started by Hafsa Kadir. And she is a sibling of a person of determination, person with disability, Ahmed. And Hafsa started I Am Inclusive with Ahmed, and Ahmed is a wheelchair user. Hafsa comes from Pakistan, and she moved here to UAE, and she was a volunteer in Special Olympics. At that time, because she also had a brother at home, she volunteered at Special Olympics, and then she got hired there. But she saw how people with disabilities would go back home after the events. And she also saw that there was no pathway to recruitment, to employment for financial independence. So with Ahmed, she went to the Social Contribution Authority, Ma'an, which is in Abu Dhabi, and she pitched her idea to have a platform that connects people with disabilities to opportunities. And she said that it would be a for-profit business. Now, in the UAE, the rulers, the leaders, so many centers are here, so many NGOs, charity foundations are here. But in my living in the UAE for 13 years, I hadn't heard of a disability inclusive platform that would provide paid services to organizations. And the courage that Hafsa has and the solution oriented human being she is, she started I'm Inclusive in 2019 April, and Ahmed and Hafsa put out a social media video that if you are a person with disability or you are a supporter of person with disability, come meet us. And there was information of a booth and all of that. And I went to meet Ahmed because Ahmed was the one calling. And I went to meet Ahmed and I only met Hafsa. That was in October of 2019. And I told Hafsa, the first question she asked me was, what do you do? And I told Hafsa, I don't do anything. I had a job. I had to leave it because they wouldn't give me access to the washroom. So I don't do anything right now. And Hafsa said, will you volunteer with me? And I said, I have one
Rule.
one thing that you need to support me with. And she said, what is it? I said, I need to work from home. And I had kept on asking working from home from 2016 to 2019. People after people I'd go and ask, and they would say no. Hafsa said, of course, why not? We have such, digital resources that we can rely on. You don't even have to think twice about it. Come volunteer with us. I started volunteering with Hafsa, and she used to ask me questions. I'm doing this event. How can I make it more accessible? I'm doing this activity. What do you think? Will it be appropriate for wheelchair users? And that is how I started I'm Inclusive. I progressed as a business development lead 6 months after joining, and I started getting paid. And in December of 2020, January 2021, Hafsa decided to make me the director of the department. And the journey that I started, every step of the way, I was unlearning the biases that I had because I knew about my disability, right? The physical aspect of it. But I learned about people with visual impairments, people who are deaf and hard of hearing, people who live with, maybe they're autistic, maybe they live with a learning disability. I didn't know this. And she put me through courses and she put me through a lot of things. And when I discuss this with my family, I'm like, Hafsa. She is the one who is the torchbearer of it. And my family says to me that it wouldn't be possible if you were not as
Also willing. Yeah.
Yes, willing. But this is something that I've learned through my journey with I'm Inclusive is many times we have ableist thought. I was listening to Shani Dhanda. She is also a person with disability, and she said very, very motivating, very, very, you have to challenge your bias, right? As a person with disability, sometimes I feel incapable of doing certain things. But I have to challenge myself every single day to push myself forward. So I think through the team that I'm working with now and under the leadership of Hafsa, of course, we have achieved milestones after milestones. Yeah. We are working with the Abu Dhabi government. We have support of the Abu Dhabi government. In Dubai, we are working with the Ministry of Community Development.
I keep sharing your number with everybody who comes. Yeah.
Yes. And I think we were discussing right now, right, that what we do cannot be in silo. So the support of, allies like yourself, the support of organizations like Al-Noor, Rashid Center, it wouldn't be possible what we are doing without the support of people around us. but I'm inclusive. With pride and with stars in my eye, I'm saying we have connected over 300 people of determination to opportunities, and
Fantastic.
we work with private sectors primarily who want to recruit people of determination. And I am inclusive is the only HR consultancy in UAE right now who is licensed to support people of determination.
Fantastic. So, Saira, before we end, if if you had to give a message to a parent or someone who is in your situation, who's just finding out about muscular dystrophy, what would that message be?
You have all the tools digitally that you can utilize. First thing is you have to remove that thought of yours that my life is done,
Over.
my life is over. It's not. It is you who decide if your life is going to start from tomorrow and how you're going to mold it. But if you are in the UAE, there are so many resources. Dubai Health Authority, DHA. Please reach out to DHA. The parents who are looking for a diagnosis, please reach out to medical professionals who will guide you. I was only able to get my diagnosis, I think, in 2019 because of the support of DHA.
Okay.
But yes, it's completely up to you how you want to start, mold, and prepare your journey.
Thank you so much. Saira, thank you. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode with the very brave and wonderful Saira. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gulshan Aunty, for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.